On this cold and quiet night, you don't need to do anything at all. You don't need to stay alert. You don't need to remember details. You don't need to follow every word. You can let your eyes grow heavy. You can let your breathing slow. You can let the day loosen its grip on you. Tonight, we're going back. Not just back a few centuries, not back to castles or kings or written history. We're going back hundreds of thousands of years, back to a world made mostly of cold, back to a world shaped by ice, wind, and time, back to a world where winter wasn't a season. It was life. For 400,000 winters, Neanderthals survived. 400,000. Let that number settle for a moment. Before farms, before cities, before metal, before blankets, heaters, walls, or roofs the way we know them, before reliable fire. And that part, that's the unsettling one, because fire is what we think of as the line, the thing that separates them from us. The thing that makes survival feel possible. So, how did they do it? How did small groups of humans live through endless ice age winters without the kind of steady warmth we take for granted? Tonight, we won't rush to answer that. Instead, we'll spend one long, quiet night with them. We'll walk slowly through snow and shadow. We'll sit in a hidden shelter against the wind. We'll listen to the cold instead of fighting it. You don't need to picture everything perfectly. These details are just here to gently occupy the part of your mind that doesn't want to rest yet. If you like, imagine a small, flickering fire, or imagine none at all. Just darkness, and breathing, and the sound of wind. You are safe where you are, warm, still, and when you're ready, take a slow breath in and let it go. We'll begin this long Neanderthal winter night together. The world around you is deep in winter, and it has been winter for longer than any memory can hold. Above, the sky hangs low and heavy, like a lid pressed gently over the land. Thick clouds stretch from horizon to horizon, dull and gray, hiding the stars most nights. Sometimes, when the clouds thin, a few pale points of light appear, distant, sharp, cold. But tonight, the sky is closed. Snow lies in quiet layers over stone and soil. It smooths the land, softens edges, fills old tracks halfway, leaving faint shadows where feet once passed. The ground beneath is hard, frozen solid, holding the cold of many winters inside it. Here and there, the wind has carved small ridges in the snow. Long, shallow ripples, like waves on a pale, silent sea. The air bites gently at any exposed skin. Each breath turns into a faint cloud that rises and disappears almost as soon as it forms. Far away, an icy river lies nearly still. Its surface is crusted and cracked, groaning softly now and then in the dark. The sound is low and distant, not alarming, just part of the night. At the edge of the open plain, trees stand bare and patient. Their branches are thin and stiff with frost, unmoving, waiting. This landscape has looked much the same for countless winters. Snow, stone, wind, the same cold repeating itself again and again. Somewhere beyond the next rise and the next, small herds of animals move slowly. They search for whatever food they can find beneath the snow. Their hooves break the crusted surface, leaving narrow paths that twist and fade into shadow. On this night, the wind is gentle. It brushes over the open land instead of cutting through it. It whispers around rocks, slides over frozen ground, finds every crack and hollow, and in doing so, it carries the cold into places that look protected. In one such place, beneath an overhanging wall of dark rock, a faint reddish glow flickers, then fades, then flickers again. Here, tucked away from the worst of the wind, a small Neanderthal group waits out another winter night. Their world is this valley, this stone, this pale sky, a place shaped by ice for longer than anyone can count. Inside the shelter, the air is only slightly warmer. The cold still lives in the stone, in the ground, in the walls, but the edge has been softened. A small group gathers here, their shapes blurred by shadow and layers of fur. There are perhaps 8 of them, close enough that their shared warmth makes a small island in the cold. Their bodies are thick and strong, broad chests, short, powerful limbs, built not for speed, but for holding heat. An older woman sits near the back. Her posture is bent slightly forward. Her hands rest quietly in her lap. Her hair is thin and streaked with gray. Her face is deeply lined. Every mark tells a story of wind, sun, and snow. Beside her, a younger woman adjusts the coverings around a sleeping child. She tucks a fold of fur gently around a small shoulder. The child's breathing is slow and steady. A soft rise, a soft fall. Near the entrance, a hunter leans against the rock. His eyes are half closed, but not fully asleep. He listens to the wind beyond the opening. His fingers curl into his palms, conserving warmth. The skin of his hands is rough, shaped by stone tools and many hunts. 2 others sit side by side, shoulders touching. They don't speak. They don't move much. Their closeness is enough. On the ground nearby, a strip of sinew lies coiled. A younger one had been tying and untying knots earlier. Now his head is bowed. Sleep pulls at him. The unfinished knot rests against his hand. Their breathing begins to align, slow, steady, shared. Outside, winter stretches endlessly. But here, they endure another night together. There may have been a small flame earlier, a fragile comfort, a brief glow against the dark. Now only blackened sticks remain. Cold ash, a faint reddish memory. Without fire, they depend on their bodies, on furs, on closeness. Layers of hide wrap around shoulders and torsos, each one carefully placed to trap warmth. The older woman pulls her covering closer around her neck. She moves slowly. Energy is precious. A thin draft creeps along the floor. It moves like invisible water around ankles and stone. Someone coughs once, low, rough. Then silence returns. Outside, ice cracks in the distance. An animal calls softly. No one reacts. These sounds belong to the night. They have heard them for generations. They expect many more nights like this. So they wait, breath after breath. And here's where something important begins to shift. Because you might be thinking, this sounds miserable. Cold, dark, barely surviving. But here's the contrarian thought. What if this wasn't constant suffering? What if it was normal, not easy, not comfortable by modern standards, but familiar, predictable, even in a strange way, safe? These people weren't dropped into this world suddenly. They were shaped by it. Their bodies, their habits, their instincts. Winter didn't surprise them, it was expected, and expectation changes everything. Before we go deeper, let me pause here for just a moment. If you're enjoying this slow journey, if you find your mind beginning to unwind, if this story is helping you settle into the night, please take a second, whenever it feels natural, to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It quietly tells the platform that this calm history has a place here, and it helps more people find a safe, gentle way to rest. You don't have to do it now. You can even forget I said it. Just know it helps more than you might think. Now, as the night deepens, their movements grow smaller, fewer adjustments, longer pauses. The child shifts once more, then stills. A hand rests nearby, warm and familiar. The older man at the back breathes unevenly but steadily. He has seen more winters than the others. His joints ache with cold that never fully leaves. Still, the group keeps close to him, not out of pity, out of belonging. Near the entrance, frost creeps along a crack in the stone, a delicate white line marking where the night presses in. The hunter nearest the opening presses his back harder against the wall. He pulls his furs tighter, hands tucked deep. Hands matter. Hands mean survival. And, even in rest, he protects them. Outside, the stars may be burning cold and distant above the clouds. Inside, breath softens the air. Stone still holds its chill, but the sharpness eases. And here, in this quiet pocket of time, they do what they have always done. They lie close. They share warmth. They wait. And in the next part of this story, we'll begin to see how this waiting became survival. Not through one big invention, but through many small choices. Repeated. Winter after winter. Perfect. Here is part 2. Continuing. Seamlessly. In the same voice, pacing, and tone. No breaks, no reset. Just a slow drift deeper into the night. How did Neanderthals survive 400,000 winters without reliable fire? History to fall asleep. Part 2. The night settles more fully now. Not suddenly. Not dramatically, just slowly. Like snow falling so softly you don't notice it at first. Inside the shelter, bodies grow heavier. Breathing deepens. The space between thoughts widens. Cold still exists. It hasn't gone anywhere, but it has been negotiated with, managed, accepted. And that acceptance is one of the quiet secrets of survival. Because Neanderthals didn't spend every night fighting winter, they learned when to resist and when to yield. Yielding doesn't mean giving up. It means choosing where your energy goes. And energy here is everything. A hunter near the middle shifts slightly, not because he's uncomfortable, because his body knows how to move just enough to keep blood flowing. A small adjustment, barely visible. The kind of movement that costs almost nothing. Their bodies are built for this. Shorter limbs mean less surface area for heat to escape. Wide chests hold larger lungs. Thick bones store strength and warmth. This wasn't planned. No one decided this consciously. It happened slowly, across thousands of generations. Those who kept heat better lived longer. Those who didn't faded quietly from the story. And what remains here, in this shelter, is the result. You might imagine them shivering constantly, teeth chattering, muscles tight with pain. But most of the time, they aren't. Not because it isn't cold, but because their bodies are used to it. Modern cold feels shocking to us. A blast of winter air and we recoil. Our bodies expect warmth at the press of a button. Theirs did not. Cold was the baseline. Warmth was the bonus. And when warmth is rare, you learn to stretch it. The older woman stirs again. Just a little, her awareness floats near the surface of sleep. She knows where everyone is without opening her eyes. She can feel the pattern of bodies, the gaps, the closeness. She has slept like this her entire life. As a child, as a young adult, as an elder. Sleep for her has never been solitary, and there is comfort in that. Protection, belonging. If someone shifts suddenly, she'll know. If a child cries, she'll be awake. Until then, she rests in a light, watchful half-sleep. Outside, the wind changes direction. It presses against the rock face differently now. Testing, probing, cold is patient. It looks for weaknesses. But the shelter holds. Snow packed into cracks blocks the air. Stone absorbs and slows the movement of wind. What little cold slips inside is softened before it reaches skin. This place was chosen carefully, not randomly. Neanderthals didn't wander blindly into caves. They knew the land. They remembered. This shelter worked last winter, and the winter before that, so they returned. This is another thing we often miss. We imagine prehistoric people constantly roaming, always on the move, never settling, but that's not quite true. They moved when they had to. They stayed when they could. Winter was not the time for wandering. Winter was the time for knowing exactly where you were, where food might still be found, where wind was weakest, where the sun touched the rock, even briefly. They planned without maps, remembered without writing. Knowledge lived in their bodies, in habits, in routines repeated until they became instinct. A child's hand slips free from the fur. Cool air brushes against small fingers. Immediately, another hand covers it. No words, no waking, just automatic care. The adult doesn't fully stir, they don't need to. Their body responds faster than thought. This, too, is survival. Not strength alone, but attention, connection. There's a strange calm to this moment. No fear, no urgency. Just the long patience of a species that knows the night will end. Eventually. Even if it feels endless. And here's another unsettling idea. Neanderthals didn't know they were surviving 400,000 winters. They didn't count like that. They didn't frame their lives as heroic endurance. To them, this was simply how life worked. Winter came, winter stayed, winter left, and they adjusted over and over. As hours pass, the shelter grows quieter. Breathing synchronizes. The faint sounds of movement fade. Even the wind outside seems to soften. The night reaches its deepest point. That place just before dawn. When cold feels sharpest and time feels slowest. This is when endurance matters most. Because it's easy to last the first hour, the second. But the final stretch tests everything. Bodies are tired, energy is low, and fire, if there ever was any, is long gone now. So how do they make it through this part? Not with effort, but with stillness. They conserve heat by not moving. Muscles relax, heart rate slow. They curl inward, minimizing exposure, maximizing shared warmth. This isn't laziness, it's efficiency. Animals do it too. Birds fluff feathers, mammals curl into tight shapes. Neanderthals learned the same lesson. Movement costs heat, stillness preserves it. The older man near the back exhales slowly, a long breath, then another. His breathing isn't perfect, but it's steady enough. Someone nearby shifts closer, not consciously, just following warmth, like water flowing downhill. In the dark, bodies arrange themselves in the most efficient way possible. No planning, no instruction, just instinct layered over generations. Now, let's pause the story for a moment and gently zoom out, because there's something important happening here, something that changes how we think about survival. Most history books focus on tools, on weapons, on fire, on what people made. But what if the real breakthrough wasn't an object? What if it was behavior? The ability to cooperate, to share warmth, to stay together, to care for the vulnerable, to adjust routines instead of fighting reality. That doesn't leave behind many artifacts. You can't dig up patience, or stillness, or trust. But those things kept people alive, night after night, winter after winter. And here's the contrarian part. Fire, when it existed, helped. But it wasn't the foundation. It was unreliable. Fires go out, fuel runs out, storms happen. If survival depended entirely on flame, Neanderthals wouldn't have lasted. Instead, fire was a bonus, a luxury, helpful when available, not fatal when absent. That's a very different way of thinking than ours. And maybe that's why this story feels unsettling. It reminds us how dependent we are, and how adaptable they were. The first hint of change begins far away. Not light yet, just a subtle shift. The cold stops deepening. It holds, as if pausing. This is the quietest moment of the night. Inside the shelter, everyone sleeps now. Even the older woman's awareness has drifted away. The night watch is over. The shelter breathes as one. Soon, very soon, the world will begin to lighten. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just a slow thinning of darkness. And when that happens, they'll move again. Slowly, carefully, another day will begin. But for now, this is the heart of the winter night, and they are still here. Here is Part 3. Flowing without interruption. Slowing even further as the night loosens its grip and begins its long turn toward morning. How did Neanderthals survive 400,000 winters without reliable fire? History to fall asleep. Part 3. Somewhere deep inside the night, time stretches. It doesn't move forward in a straight line anymore. It pools. It thickens. Moments blur into one another like snowflakes melting together on a dark sleeve. Inside the shelter, no one is fully awake now. Thoughts have thinned. Edges have softened. The body takes over, doing what it knows how to do without asking permission. Breathing slows. Muscles slacken. The mind drifts into that gentle place where awareness floats, untethered. Cold is still present, but it is no longer the main character. It has been pushed to the edges, managed. contained. Outside, the wind pauses, not completely, just enough to feel like silence by comparison. Snow no longer shifts across the ground. The trees stand motionless. Even the distant river seems quieter now, as if holding its breath. This is the coldest hour. The point where winter presses hardest. And this is where the quiet brilliance of Neanderthal survival shows itself most clearly. Not in action, but in restraint. Their bodies are doing something subtle, something easy to miss. They are burning fewer calories. Heart rates are low. Movement is minimal. Heat loss slows. This isn't conscious. No one taught them this with words. It is learned the way animals learn, through experience, through nights that went wrong, through nights that went right. Over many winters, those who wasted energy suffered. Those who conserved it lasted longer. And slowly, that knowledge became automatic, built into sleep itself. A hunter near the edge stirs. Just once, he shifts his weight slightly, easing pressure from one hip to the other. Then stillness returns. That's all. No stretching, no sitting up, no pacing. Every movement has a cost, so they spend carefully. In modern life, we fill silence quickly, with noise, with thought, with distraction. But here, silence is not empty. It is full of listening, full of rest, full of information. Every sound matters because there are so few of them. A breath that changes rhythm, a fur that rustles too suddenly, a cough that lingers. These things would be noticed instantly. Tonight, there are none, and that means the group is safe. Let's stay here for a moment longer, in this quiet, in this cold, because this is the only answer hiding in plain sight. They survived not by conquering winter, but by fitting into it. They didn't try to dominate the cold. They shaped themselves around it, their bodies, their routines, their expectations. Winter was not a disaster. It was a condition, like gravity, like darkness, something you plan around, not against. The child in the center sighs softly, a deep, relaxed sound, a sign of comfort. The adults around them don't wake. They don't need to. They trust the night. They trust the shelter. They trust one another. Trust is another invisible tool. It doesn't fossilize, but without it, survival would collapse quickly. Slowly, very slowly, something begins to change, not inside the shelter yet, but far away, beyond the hills. Beyond the frozen plain, the sky lightens by the smallest degree, not enough to see, just enough to feel. Darkness loses its depth. Cold loosens its hold. The worst has passed. Inside, bodies begin to stir, not fully awake, just adjusting. A knee slides. A shoulder rolls. Furs shift slightly as people unconsciously prepare to rise. Sleep thins. Awareness returns in gentle waves. No one jumps up. No one rushes. Morning is not a command. It is an invitation. The older woman opens her eyes. Just a little. She listens, counts breaths, feels movement. Everything is as it should be. She closes her eyes again, just for another moment. This is another thing we often misunderstand. Survival isn't always about pushing forward. Sometimes it's about waiting until the right moment. Rising too early wastes energy. Moving too fast invites mistakes. Neanderthals learned patience the hard way. Through hunger, through cold, through loss, and patience paid them back again and again. Now, let's gently step back once more. Think about what you knew before this story. You probably imagined fire as the center of survival, the hero, the thing that made winter livable. Now you know something else. Fire helped, but it wasn't the foundation. The foundation was bodies built for cold, clothing layered with care, shelters shaped by memory, stillness, cooperation, trust, patience. None of those things leave dramatic traces, but together they carried a species through hundreds of thousands of winters. The first pale hint of light reaches the shelter. It doesn't enter directly. It reflects, bouncing off snow, off stone, turning darkness into a soft gray. Eyes open more fully now. People sit up slowly, joints stiff, breath visible again. Morning cold bites differently than night cold, sharper but shorter-lived. Someone stands carefully. Feet find the ground, weight shifts, balance returns. Another follows. The day begins. There will be tasks, food to seek, furs to adjust, tools to use. But that is for later. For now, the night has been survived. Again. And this is the quiet payoff. This is the hidden ending. They didn't survive 400,000 winters by doing something extraordinary. They survived by doing something consistent, by repeating small, effective behaviors, night after night, winter after winter. No glory, no celebration, just continuation, and continuation over time becomes history. As we drift toward the end of this story, let your body do what theirs did. Let it rest. Let it slow. Let the night finish passing on its own. You don't need to stay awake. You don't need to hear the end. Your body already understands how to endure, how to rest, how to let go. Here is why. Part 4. The final slow drift. Written to gently close the night and let everything settle. How did Neanderthals survive? 400,000 winters without reliable fire. History to fall asleep. 2. Part 4. Morning does not arrive all at once. It never does in winter. There is no sudden brightness, no sharp line between night and day. Instead, darkness thins, like breath on cold glass, like fog lifting from a frozen river. Inside the shelter, light reaches them indirectly, reflected, softened. It slides along stone and fur, turning deep shadow into pale gray. Eyes adjust slowly. No one rushes. They have learned not to fight the rhythm of the world. The first to fully wake is the older woman. Not because she slept poorly, but because her body has carried this rhythm the longest. She sits up carefully, pauses, lets blood move again. The cold reminds her of itself immediately, a dull ache in the joints, a familiar stiffness. She does not resist it. She breathes through it. One by one, the others stir, a stretch that lasts only a second. A low grunt, a hand rubbing warmth back into fingers. The child wakes last, blinking, confused for a moment, then comforted by the closeness of familiar bodies. The night is over. They are still here. And that, in this world, is enough. Outside, the frozen land looks almost gentle in the early light. Snow glows faintly, shadows stretch long and thin, the wind has eased, the cold remains, but it has lost its edge. Tracks from the night before are half hidden now, softened, as if the world itself is trying not to leave sharp marks. They move with care as they begin the day. Energy is still precious, nothing is wasted. Someone steps outside briefly, scanning the plain, not for danger, for opportunity, for signs, for movement. The land speaks quietly, and they know how to listen. This is where the story completes its circle, because if you step back far enough, if you look at this one night among hundreds of thousands, you begin to see the truth. Neanderthals didn't survive winter by defeating it. They survived by respecting it. They understood limits. They worked within them. They shaped their lives around cold instead of pretending it wasn't there. And in doing so, they lasted. For longer than most human cultures ever have. Before this story, you might have thought of Neanderthals as fragile, primitive, barely hanging on. Now you know something different. They were resilient, practical, deeply adapted, not reckless, not desperate, calm, persistent, human. As the group prepares to leave the shelter, the night feels very far away already. The cold remains, the challenges remain, but so does the knowledge. Passed down without words, carried in bodies and habits and quiet understanding. This is how they survived, not through brilliance alone, but through patience, through closeness, through knowing when to move and when to stay still. Now, gently bring your attention back to yourself, to where you are, to the warmth around you. You are safe. The long night has passed. You don't need to hold on to this story. You can let it fade, like footprints filling with snow, like breath disappearing into cold air. 400,000 winters, and this was just one quiet night among them. You don't need to hear the end. Your body already knows how to rest, so let go now. Let the day or the night carry you forward, and sleep, when it comes, take you easily. Understood. We'll treat part 5 as a soft epilogue and extended drift. The kind many sleep history listeners love, where nothing new is demanded of the mind, only gentle closure, reassurance, and continuity. No reset, no urgency, just lingering calm. How did Neanderthals survive? 400,000 winters without reliable fire. History to fall asleep. Part 5. The long afterglow. If you're still listening, that's okay. If you've drifted in and out, that's okay too. This part isn't here to teach you anything new. It's here to let the story settle, like embers buried under ash, like warmth held in stone long after bodies have moved on. Long after that small group leaves the shelter, the place remains. The rock doesn't forget them. The ground still holds the shallow impressions where they slept. A faint mix of scents lingers: fur, breath, old smoke, earth. If another group comes weeks later, they will feel it, not as memory, as familiarity. A sense that this place has worked before, that it knows how to hold life through winter. Outside, the day unfolds slowly. The sun never rises high. It skims the horizon, pale and distant. But it's enough. Enough to loosen ice. Enough to reveal patches of ground. Enough to make movement possible again. Neanderthals don't celebrate this. They simply respond, as they always have. This is how most of their lives pass, not marked by milestones, not divided into chapters, but flowing, one day into the next, one winter into another, each season leaving quiet traces behind. Much later, long after these people are gone, others will arrive. Different humans with thinner bodies, longer limbs, different tools. They will find Neanderthal bones, strong, dense, built like the cold itself, and they will wonder, how did they live here? How did they survive this? They will imagine fire everywhere. They will imagine constant struggle. They will imagine suffering, and only slowly, very slowly, they will begin to understand the quieter truth. That survival is not always loud. That endurance does not always look heroic. That some of the most powerful adaptations leave no monuments, no writings, no myths, only continuation. If this story has done anything tonight, let it be this: a gentle reminder that humans are older than comfort, older than convenience, older than certainty, and still, somehow, here. You don't need to carry this knowledge forward. You don't need to remember facts or timelines. You can let it dissolve, like snow melting into soil, like breath warming cold air for just a moment, then fading. As you rest now, notice your own warmth, the way your body holds heat, the way your breath slows when you stop asking it to do more. You are doing what humans have always done, resting when rest is possible. Letting the night pass. 400,000 winters. And tonight is only one more quiet night in that long human story. Nothing needs your attention now. Nothing needs solving. You can sleep. If you'd like more journeys like this, slow, calm, and grounded in deep time, you're always welcome to return. For now, rest. The winter has been survived again. Here is Part 6. The true final drift. Written to fade almost completely into rest. Slower, softer, with nothing new to hold on to. How did Neanderthals survive? 400,000 winters without reliable fire. History to fall asleep. To our Part 6. Letting the story go. By now, the story barely matters. The names don't matter. The details don't matter. Even the winters don't matter anymore. What remains is the feeling, a quiet sense of continuity. A slow understanding that life doesn't need sharp edges to continue. Imagine that shelter again, empty now. No movement, no breath, just stone and snow and pale light. The place looks almost ordinary, unremarkable, and that is exactly why it worked. Cold moves through the valley as it always has. Wind reshapes the snow. Time keeps passing without noticing itself. Nothing dramatic happens. And yet, everything continues. Neanderthals will return here, or others like them will, or perhaps they won't. Either way, winter will come again, and again, and again. Long after Neanderthals are gone, long after the ice retreats, long after new humans build fires that never go out. Winter will still exist. Cold will still arrive quietly. Night will still deepen, and people will still need rest. This story was never really about them. Not entirely. It was about the part of you that knows how to endure, the part that doesn't need urgency, the part that understands stillness. You're breathing now. Let it slow. Let it find its own rhythm, in, out, nothing to fix, nothing to follow. Thoughts can come and go, like clouds, like drifting snow. You don't need to chase them. You don't need to push them away. Let them pass. If sleep has already taken you, that's perfect. If you're still hovering at the edge, that's fine too. This is not a test. There is no right way to rest. The long human night continues, not just for Neanderthals, for everyone, everywhere, across time. You are warm, you are safe. You can let go now. The story doesn't need you anymore, and you don't need it. Rest. The winter will pass on its own. Got it. Aldi. Continue the story. Same voice, same slow pacing, same sleep-friendly rhythm. No reset, no recap, no guide language. Just a long, gentle continuation that lets the mind stay loose. Below is the next extended continuation of the script, written as a flowing night drift. You can place it directly after part 6. The cold world does not hurry. It never has. Snow falls when it falls. Ice forms when it forms. Morning arrives when it's ready. And long before anyone thought to measure time, this was enough. Far beyond the shelter, the land stretches out again. Wide, quiet, unimpressed by survival or failure. The same valley that held warmth during the night now opens itself to the day. Light slides slowly over frozen ground, not warming it much, just revealing it. Stone looks pale and ancient in the early glow. Snow carries a faint blue tint where shadows linger. Nothing here is new. Nothing is surprised to exist. If you could stand there, quietly, without leaving footprints, you might notice something unusual. The land does not feel hostile. It feels indifferent. And indifference is easier to live with than cruelty. Neanderthals understood that. They didn't ask the world to care. They asked only where it allowed them to fit. Their tracks move away from the shelter now. Slow steps, measured, each foot placed carefully to avoid slipping. They do not waste energy correcting mistakes. They avoid mistakes instead. The child walks between two adults, hands held, not for sentiment, for balance, for warmth, for learning the shape of the land through another body. The air still stings the lungs, but breathing it no longer feels dangerous. Just sharp, clear, alive. The kind of cold that wakes the body without overwhelming it. The kind that tells you exactly where you are. You may notice something else if you watch closely. No one complains. No one gestures dramatically at the cold. There is no visible resentment, because resentment costs energy, and energy is too valuable to waste on what cannot be changed. Instead, attention turns outward, to signs, to patterns, to what the land is offering today. A disturbed patch of snow, a dark line of exposed soil, the faint scent of animals carried on the breeze. These are messages, and Neanderthals were good listeners. The group pauses, not long. Just enough to look, to feel, to decide without words. One direction is chosen, the group shifts slightly, and they move on. This is planning without meetings, decision without debate, trust without explanation. Much later, archaeologists will argue over this, over how intelligent Neanderthals were, over whether they planned ahead, whether they understood seasons, whether they thought like us. But standing here, watching them move, the question feels strange. They are thinking, just not loudly. Their thinking lives in movement, in spacing, in when they stop, in when they don't, in how close they stay, in which risks they ignore, and which they never take. The cold continues to press against them. It always will, but it does not define the day. The day is defined by what can be done within the cold, and there is always something. As the sun creeps higher, never high enough to feel generous, small tasks begin. Someone kneels to examine a patch of ground. Another scans the distance. A third adjusts the child's wrapping. No one stands idle, but no one rushes either. Movement remains efficient, deliberate, calm. This is another quiet misunderstanding about prehistoric life. We imagine chaos, urgency, constant danger. But most days were probably like this, measured, predictable, repetitive, and repetition builds mastery. Hours pass, not marked by clocks, marked by hunger, by light, by cold shifting slightly from sharp to dull. They eat when they can, not feasts, not scarcity, just enough. Fat scraped from bone. Dried meat softened in the mouth, energy carefully restored. You might wonder how they stayed warm while moving. The answer is simple. Movement creates heat. Too much movement creates sweat. Sweat steals warmth later, so they walk. They don't run. They lift. They don't strain. Every action balanced against what comes after. As the day stretches on, clouds thicken again. The light dims. The land prepares itself for another night. Winter does not care that the sun rose. It never does. The group begins to turn back, not because they are finished, but because they know the limits of daylight. They know what happens if you're caught far from shelter after dark. Knowledge doesn't have to be dramatic to be powerful. It just has to be correct. They reach the shelter again as shadows lengthen. The rock looks different now. Familiar, reliable. The same shape that protected them last night. The same shape that will protect them again. They settle in, not with ceremony, not with relief, just with habit. Furs adjusted, tools placed where they can be found later, bodies arranged with practiced ease. This is not the end of the story. This is the loop. Night returns, cold deepens again. The same wind, the same sky, the same patience, and the group does exactly what they did before. They lie close, they conserve heat, they let the world be what it is. Now, gently, let your attention loosen again. You don't need to follow them anymore. You've already learned what there was to learn. The lesson doesn't need repetition, but repetition is comforting, and that's why the story continues. Winter after winter, night after night, shelter after shelter, group after group, the same small decisions made correctly, again and again and again. Neanderthals did not survive because they were lucky. They survived because their way of living matched their world. When conditions changed too fast, when climates shifted sharply, when new humans arrived with different strategies, their story began to thin. Not suddenly, not violently, just slowly, like snow melting without anyone watching. And that, too, is part of the human story. Not everything ends in disaster. Some things simply fade, leaving traces, bones, tools, questions. Tonight, those questions don't need answers. They can rest, just like you can. If your mind is still awake, let it wander gently. If it's drifting, let it drift. If sleep has already taken you, that's perfect. This story was never meant to be held tightly. It was meant to be shared and then released. The long winter continues, but you are warm, you are safe, and nothing more is required of you now. Understood. Allah. Continue the story in the same calm, drifting voice, without resetting, without explaining, without adding structure cues. What follows is a long, seamless continuation, meant to be layered gently into the night. Just slow words, repetition, stillness, endurance. The land settles again, not into silence exactly, but into a quieter version of itself. Snow shifts a little under its own weight. Ice tightens and loosens with soft, distant sounds. The sky lowers, heavy and familiar. Winter does not announce itself. It simply stays. Inside the shelter, bodies return to rest, not because the day was exhausting, but because rest is always part of the plan. Movement without rest wastes warmth. Wakefulness without reason wastes energy. So they rest early, they rest often, they rest together. Furs fall into familiar shapes. No one arranges them carefully anymore. Hands know where to pull, where to fold, where to tuck. These motions live deeper than thought. They belong to the body. Breathing slows again. The shelter fills with the same shared rhythm as before. In, out, a little mist in the cold air. Each breath softens the space just a little. Not enough to feel warm, enough to feel less alone. Outside, the wind returns. Not strong, just present. It presses against stone, then slides away, presses again. Like water testing the edges of a vessel, the shelter holds. It always has. Somewhere far away, an animal moves. The sound is faint, almost imagined. A soft crunch of snow, a pause, another step. The Neanderthals do not react. Not every sound is danger. Learning which sounds matter is another kind of intelligence. The child breathes evenly now, completely asleep, wrapped in layers shaped by many hands. Each layer once belonged to something else, an animal, a hunt, a story that ended so another could continue. Nothing here is wasted. Even warmth is borrowed. The older man shifts slightly. Pain moves through his joints. Not sharp, dull, persistent. He has lived long enough to know the pain will pass if he doesn't fight it. He adjusts, settles, lets the ache become background noise. Survival sometimes means refusing to make pain the center of attention. If you stay with this moment long enough, something strange happens. The cold stops feeling like an enemy. It becomes a condition, like darkness, like gravity, something you orient yourself around, not something you argue with. Neanderthals did not ask winter why it came. They did not curse it. They did not imagine a world without it. They simply built their lives to include it. That acceptance was not weakness. It was precision. Time stretches again. Hours slip by without ceremony. No one marks them. The night does not need witnesses. You might imagine dreams passing through their minds, not vivid stories, not complicated images, more like fragments, warmth, movement, familiar paths, the feeling of sun on stone. Dreams don't need language to exist. Breathing deepens. The shelter grows still. Even the wind seems to listen. This is the deepest rest, the kind that repairs without asking permission. Far away beyond the horizon, the earth turns, slowly, impatiently. Morning begins its long approach, not because anyone needs it, but because it always comes. Inside the shelter, the first sign is not light. It is change in temperature, a subtle easing, cold that no longer sharpens, just holds. Bodies respond before minds do. A stretch, a shift, a breath taken slightly deeper. Sleep thins. Awareness returns in layers. No one wakes fully yet. There is no rush. Rushing costs energy. Energy is life. Outside, the snow reflects the faintest hint of pale color. Not quite light, not quite dark. That in-between state where the world feels suspended. The older woman opens her eyes again. She sits, waits, feels. Everything is as it should be. She stands slowly, joints protest. She ignores the complaint. Pain speaks loudly only when it is answered. The others follow, not all at once, one by one, a quiet procession into the day. They eat little, they drink when they can. They prepare. Preparation is not dramatic. It is repetitive, necessary, comforting. The shelter empties again, but it does not feel abandoned. It feels patient, waiting. The day unfolds much like the last, and the one before that, and the one before that. That small movements, small successes. No grand victories, just continuation. This is how 400,000 winters pass, not as one long struggle, but as many ordinary days done correctly, as centuries turn into millennia, as ice advances and retreats. As animals change and landscapes shift, the same principles remain. Conserve energy, share warmth, choose shelter carefully, move with intention, rest often. Eventually, the world will change faster than bodies can adapt. New humans will arrive, different shapes, different strategies. Fire will become steadier, clothing lighter, shelters more permanent. Neanderthals will not disappear in one moment. They will thin, fade, blend. Their genes will carry forward quietly into other bodies, other lives, other nights. And tonight, you are part of that continuation, not because you live in cold, but because your body still remembers how to rest, how to slow, how to endure night without fear. You don't need to stay awake now. You don't need to imagine anything more. The story has done its work. Let your breathing slow again. Let your thoughts loosen. Let the night finish passing without you watching it. Winter will always exist somewhere, but so will warmth. So will shelter. So will rest. You are safe. You are warm. Nothing more is required. Understood. I'll continue. In the same voice, same slow cadence, same drifting intention. No reset, no explanation, no structure, just a long, quiet continuation meant to carry the listener deeper into rest. What follows is a large continuous extension. You can append it directly after the previous section. The world does not notice the passage of another day. It never has. Snow falls whether someone watches or not. Cold deepens whether anyone complains. Morning arrives without asking permission. And long before calendars, this was enough. Across the frozen ground, the group moves again. Not far. Never far in winter. Distance is expensive, so they choose routes they know. Paths remembered not as lines on a map, but as feelings in the legs. A slope that pulls slightly to the left. A patch where snow always hides deeper. A place where the wind turns sharp without warning. Knowledge like this does not need language. It lives in the body. The child walks more confidently now. Still small. Still wrapped. But learning. Feet placed where others place theirs. Hands copying the way adults balance weight. This is how survival teaches, not through instruction, through proximity. The air smells faintly different today. Not warmer, just altered. A hint of moisture, a promise of snow later. The group notices. They don't discuss it. They adjust their pace. Hours stretch again. Time thickens. The sun never rises high enough to feel generous. It moves sideways across the sky. Cold light. Flat. Honest. They find what they need. Not abundance. Enough. Enough to return. Enough to keep bodies steady. Enough to avoid risk. Risk is a luxury of warmer places. When they turn back, no one questions it. The shelter waits. It always does. Inside, the air feels familiar again. The same stone, the same smells, the same shallow grooves in the ground shaped by many rests. Time compresses here. Last night feels close. Tomorrow already feels known. Furs fall into place. Bodies settle. Breathing aligns again. And now, let's slow even further. Let's let the story thin, because repetition is the point, not progress. Winter does not end quickly. It loosens, it tightens, it tests patience, and patience answers by... Neanderthals did not count winters. They did not say, "We have survived this many." They simply moved from one to the next, and in doing so, created a number larger than imagination. Cold touches skin, but skin has learned. It tightens. Blood moves inward. The body protects itself quietly. The mind follows. Thoughts slow. Urgency dissolves. Awareness spreads out instead of focusing. This is not boredom. This is rest. You may notice your own breathing now, not because you were told to, but because stillness invites attention. In, out, slow, steady. The shelter holds. The night deepens. Again. Somewhere beyond the valley, ice shifts. A sound too far away to matter. Life does not respond to every noise, only the right ones. The child sleeps. The elders rest. The hunters dream without stories. This is not weakness. This is calibration. The cold presses. The group answers by staying still, by staying close, by trusting what has worked before. If someone wakes briefly, they do not panic. They listen, they feel, they sleep again. Nothing needs solving. Nothing needs fixing. Winter is doing what winter does, and they are doing what they do. Days pass like this, blending, folding into one another. No sharp edges, no milestones, just continuity. Eventually, far in the future, someone will name this the Ice Age. They will draw charts. They will argue. They will imagine suffering. But standing here, inside this shelter, the truth feels simpler. Cold is present. Life continues. And now, the story begins to loosen its grip. Details blur, scenes soften. The shelter fades into a feeling rather than a place. Breathing remains. Warmth remains. You don't need to picture Neanderthals anymore. You don't need to hold on to them. They have already done their work. What remains is rhythm, slow, ancient, human. In, out. Winter continues somewhere, but not here, not for you. You are warm. You are still. You can let the night finish without you watching it. Nothing more is required. Understood, I'll continue. In the same voice, same slow cadence, same drifting intention. No reset, no explanation. No structure, just a long, quiet continuation meant to carry the listener deeper into rest. What follows is a large, continuous extension. You can append it directly after the previous section. The world does not notice the passage of another day. It never has. Snow falls whether someone watches or not. Cold deepens whether anyone complains. Morning arrives without asking permission, and long before calendars, this was enough. Across the frozen ground, the group moves again. Not far, never far in winter. Distance is expensive, so they choose routes they know. Paths remembered not as lines on a map, but as feelings in the legs. A slope that pulls slightly to the left. A patch where snow always hides deeper. A place where the wind turns sharp without warning. Knowledge like this does not need language. It lives in the body. The child walks more confidently now, still small, still wrapped, but learning. Feet placed where others place theirs. Hands copying the way adults balance weight. This is how survival teaches, not through instruction, through proximity. The air smells faintly different today. Not warmer, just altered. A hint of moisture. A promise of snow later. The group notices. They don't discuss it. They adjust their pace. Hours stretch again. Time thickens. The sun never rises high enough to feel generous. It moves sideways across the sky. Cold light. Flat. Honest. They find what they need, not abundance. Enough. Enough to return. Enough to keep bodies steady. Enough to avoid risk. Risk is a luxury of warmer places. When they turn back, no one questions it. The shelter waits. It always does. Inside, the air feels familiar again. The same stone. The same smell. The same shallow grooves in the ground, shaped by many rests. Time compresses here. Last night feels close. Tomorrow already feels known. Furs fall into place. Bodies settle. Breathing aligns again. And now, let's slow even further. Let's let the story thin. Because repetition is the point, not progress. Winter does not end quickly. It loosens. It tightens. It tests patience, and patience answers. Neanderthals did not count winters. They did not say, "We have survived this many." They simply moved from one to the next, and in doing so, created a number larger than imagination. Cold touches skin, but skin has learned. It tightens. Blood moves inward. The body protects itself quietly. The mind follows. Thoughts slow. Urgency dissolves. Awareness spreads out instead of focusing. This is not boredom. This is rest. You may notice your own breathing now, not because you were told to, but because stillness invites attention. In, out, slow, steady. The shelter holds. The night deepens. Again. Somewhere beyond the valley, ice shifts. A sound too far away to matter. Life does not respond to every noise, only the right ones. The child sleeps. The elders rest. The hunters dream without stories. This is not weakness. This is calibration. The cold presses. The group answers by staying still, by staying close, by trusting what has worked before. If someone wakes briefly, they do not panic. They listen. They feel. They sleep again. Nothing needs solving, nothing needs fixing. Winter is doing what winter does, and they are doing what they do. Days pass like this, blending, folding into one another, no sharp edges, no milestones, just continuity. Wah. Eventually, far in the future, someone will name this the Ice Age. They will draw charts, they will argue, they will imagine suffering. But standing here, inside this shelter, the truth feels simpler. Cold is present. Life continues. And now, the story begins to loosen its grip. Details blur, scenes soften. The shelter fades into a feeling rather than a place. Breathing remains. Warmth remains. You don't need to picture Neanderthals anymore. You don't need to hold on to them. They have already done their work. What remains is rhythm. Slow, ancient, human. In, out. Winter continues somewhere, but not here, not for you. You are warm. You are still. You can let the night finish without you watching it. Nothing more is required. I'll continue. Exactly in the same mode. Slow, circular, gentle, repetitive. With no reset, no explanation, no tightening. What follows is another long, seamless continuation, meant to feel like the story is still breathing even if the listener isn't fully awake anymore. The night does not mind being ignored. It has existed without witnesses before. It will exist without them again. Snow keeps falling, not in a hurry, not with intention, just because the air has cooled enough to let it go. Each flake drifts, turns, settles. The land accepts it without reaction. Inside the shelter, nothing changes for a long time. Breathing remains slow, bodies remain close, warmth remains pooled at the center. The cold stays at the edges, where it belongs. If someone were to wake now, fully wake, they might feel disoriented, not because something is wrong, but because everything is quiet. So quiet that the mind has nothing sharp to hold on to. That kind of quiet can feel unfamiliar, but the body recognizes it. Neanderthals lived in this quiet often. They did not fill it. They let it be. The older woman's hand rests against the stone. Her fingers curl slightly, unconsciously. The rock is cold, but steady, unmoving. It has been here longer than memory. It will be here long after this night. That steadiness is comforting. Somewhere in the shelter, a soft sound escapes someone's mouth. Not speech, not a word. Just a breath shaped by sleep. No one responds. It does not need responding to. Time thickens again. Minutes stretch. Hours lose their meaning. There is only night, and the slow passage through it. Outside, snow begins to pile more deeply, covering the hard edges of the world, softening stone, filling hollows. The land becomes quieter with every layer. Snow does something important. It hides danger. It hides food. It hides paths. But it also hides sound. And silence here is safety. Neanderthals learned to read snow the way others read books. Depth, texture, crust. They knew what kind of movement it allowed, what kind it punished. But that knowledge sleeps now. It will wake with them later. Inside, warmth continues to circulate, not evenly, but sufficiently. Bodies pressed together at points of contact, shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, back to back, heat shared, effort reduced. This closeness is not accidental. It is practiced, learned, remembered. No one tells anyone where to lie. They already know. Cold presses against the outer furs, stops, presses again, like a question that has already been answered. The night feels long, but it always does. That doesn't make it endless. Neanderthals trusted that. They trusted that morning would come, not because they believed in it, but because it always had. Trust built on repetition is very strong. If you notice your own thoughts drifting now, let them. They don't need direction. They don't need focus. They can wander like snowflakes. The shelter holds. It always does. Stone and snow working together. A simple partnership. Long after this night, long after these people, others will try to recreate warmth with complexity. Walls, insulation, machine. They will forget how much can be done with very little. Neanderthals did not have excess, so nothing was wasted. Not heat, not movement, not attention. Attention is another form of warmth. It keeps you alive when resources are thin. The child shifts again. A knee presses against an adult's side. The adult adjusts automatically. This happens without waking. Care does not require consciousness. Breathing deepens again. The shelter grows quieter still. Even the wind pauses. This is the deepest part of the night, the part where cold and silence feel heavy, but also complete. Nothing is missing. If you feel yourself sinking now, that's natural. This is where the body lets go most easily. The land outside continues its slow work. Ice expands, contracts, snow settles into itself. Everything adjusts without effort. The older man exhales, then inhales, then exhales again. His body has done this through more winters than most. It knows how. Pain moves through him, then moves on. He does not hold it. Holding pain costs energy. Letting it pass does not. Neanderthals learned this lesson early. They did not cling to discomfort. They acknowledged it, then returned to what mattered: warmth, stillness, rest. The shelter is now fully dark again. Clouds have thickened, stars hidden, no light enters, and still no fear arises. Darkness is not danger, it is context. Many thousands of years later, people will fear darkness. They will fill it with noise, light, movement. They will forget that darkness can be safe. Here, darkness is familiar. It signals rest. It means the world has slowed. Time continues, but no one notices. Eventually, far beyond awareness, the earth turns again. Cold loosens slightly, not enough to feel, enough to matter. Bodies respond before minds. A slight shift, a breath taken deeper. Sleep begins to thin. But not yet, not fully. This in-between state stretches, a long, gentle plateau, neither sleeping nor waking, just existing. If you are here now, hovering, that's okay. If you are gone, that's okay too. This story does not require an audience. Snow continues to fall, then stops, then falls again. The world is patient. The shelter remains. The group remains. Life continues in small, quiet increments. Eventually, light will return, and movement will follow, and the cycle will repeat. But for now, there is nothing to do, nothing to remember, nothing to prepare for. You can let the night hold you, just as the shelter holds them. Warm, still, safe. All right, I'll keep going. In the same quiet, circular, unhurried way. No reset, no new framing, no tightening. Just another long stretch of words meant to exist gently. Whether they're heard clearly or not, the night holds its shape, not rigid, not fragile, just steady. Snow rests where it landed. Cold lingers without pressing harder. The world seems content to remain as it is. Inside the shelter, the air feels thick with stillness, not heavy, cushioned. Breath moves through it slowly, warming it just enough to take the edge away. The stone does not warm, but it does not grow colder either. It has reached its balance. Someone's foot presses against the ground. The packed earth is firm, familiar. It holds the imprint of many rests before this one. The ground remembers bodies. If you listen long enough, you might notice how silence is never complete. There is always something, a breath, a faint shift of fur, the quiet click of ice far away. Silence is made of small sounds resting together. Neanderthals were not afraid of this. They lived inside it. They understood that sound did not always mean threat. Sometimes it simply meant existence continuing. The child's breathing deepens again. A slow, steady rhythm, safe, undisturbed. The adults around them relax further without realizing it. Safety spreads outward. Time drifts, uncounted, unmeasured. There are no hours here, only phases. Deep night, deeper night. The point just before change. Cold moves differently now. It no longer sharpens, it settles, like water reaching stillness after a long pour. The wind returns briefly, soft, testing, then moves on. It has learned the shelter's boundaries. The shelter has learned the wind's habits. Neither is surprised by the other. This mutual understanding is another kind of adaptation. Not dominance, not resistance. Familiarity. The older woman shifts her weight slightly, not because she is uncomfortable, because the body prefers small changes over long strain. She settles again. Stillness resumes. Dreams pass through the shelter. Not dramatic, not vivid, simple sensations, warmth, movement, the feel of fur against skin. The sound of wind remembered without fear. Dreams do not need stories. They need only sensation. Outside, the snow reflects almost no light. The world is muted, edges blurred, everything softened. If you were to step outside now, sound would disappear quickly. Snow absorbs it, cold dampens it, distance swallows it. The world becomes vast and quiet. Inside, closeness counters that vastness. Bodies gather where the world recedes. This is not accidental. Humans have always done this. Long before language shaped meaning, closeness shaped survival. Still does. The night presses on, but gently now. As if aware, it has already done its worst. Eventually, a subtle shift occurs. Not light, not warmth, just a sense of release. The deepest point has passed. The body knows this before the mind. Muscles loosen slightly. Breathing changes. Sleep thins at the edges. But no one wakes fully yet. There is no advantage in being early. Early costs energy. Patience preserves it. The shelter remains dim, but not completely dark anymore. Snow outside reflects the faintest suggestion of gray. The older man's eyes open briefly. He looks at nothing in particular, then closes them again, satisfied. This is how mornings begin here. Not with alarms, not with urgency, with recognition. Cold still exists, but it has shifted roles. No longer testing, just present. The group will rise soon, but not yet. There is still rest to take. You may feel something similar now, a sense that sleep has deepened, or that waking feels distant. Either is fine. There is no wrong state here. The story does not require your attention anymore. It continues on its own. Neanderthals will rise. They will move. They will endure another day. Another night will follow. Another winter will pass. Thousands of winters will do the same, layering time the way snow layers ground, one thin layer at a time. Much later, when people try to understand how Neanderthals survived, they will look for clever answers. Tools, fire, strategy. They will overlook the simplest truth, that survival is often quiet and boring and repetitive, and that is why it works. Repetition builds reliability. Reliability builds endurance. Endurance builds history. You do not need to hold on to these thoughts. They can pass through like breath. In, out. The shelter grows lighter now, just barely. Enough to signal change, not enough to disrupt rest. Soon, movement will return, but this story does not need to follow it. We can remain here in the moment just before. The night has done its work. The cold has been endured. Warmth has been shared. You are warm now. You are still. Nothing needs you. I'll continue. Without breaking the spell. Same voice, same slow, looping, calm. No reset, no explanation. Just more time passing gently. The light continues its slow approach, not as a promise, not as an event, just as a change in tone. Darkness does not vanish. It thins, like breath on cold air, like mist loosening its grip. Inside the shelter, the air feels slightly different now. Not warmer, just less tight. The cold has stopped pressing forward. It has settled back into itself. Breathing shifts again, a little deeper, a little fuller. The body notices before the mind does. It always does. Someone stirs. A shoulder rolls. A knee straightens, then bends again. No one opens their eyes fully yet. There is no reason to. The day will wait. The child's face relaxes further. Sleep is still deep, the safest place to be. Wrapped, held, unaware of the cold beyond the furs. Outside, the snow holds its shape. No wind now, no movement. The land feels paused, as if everything has agreed to wait a little longer. This pause is important. It is the hinge between night and day, between stillness and motion, between conserving energy and spending it. Neanderthals understood this hinge well. They did not rush through it. Long ago, they learned that waking too early wastes warmth. Rising before the world softens wastes strength. So they wait, patient, unhurried. Time continues without measurement. There is no counting, no marking, just awareness drifting closer to the surface. The older woman opens her eyes again. This time, she keeps them open. She looks toward the shelter's entrance. The light is faint, but present. That is enough. She sits up slowly, not stiff, not rushed, just deliberate. Her body remembers this movement. It has done it through many winters. The others begin to follow, one at a time. A low sound here. A stretch there. Hands rubbing warmth back into fingers. Feet pressing against the ground. Cold greets them again. Not sharply, just honestly. It reminds them where they are. They accept the reminder. The shelter begins to feel smaller, not unsafe. Just ready to be left. Rest has been taken. That part of the cycle is complete. They eat a little, just enough. Fat and protein. Dense, efficient, no excess. Excess would only slow them down. The child wakes now, blinking, momentarily confused, then reassured by familiar faces. Familiar shapes, familiar closeness. Outside, the world is pale and quiet. Snow reflects light upward. The sky remains heavy with cloud. The sun hides behind it, but its presence is felt. They step out slowly, not all at once, letting their eyes adjust, letting their bodies reacclimate. Cold touches skin again, then fades into awareness. Breath clouds the air, rises, disappears, again and again. The day unfolds, not dramatically, not generously, but predictably, which is enough. They move carefully across the land, reading snow, reading silence, reading distance, every step placed with intention. If you could follow them now, you would notice how little they hurry. Hurry belongs to panic. They do not panic, they adapt. The cold is still present, but now it works with movement instead of against stillness. Blood flows, muscles warm, the body balances itself again. This balance between rest and movement, between cold and warmth, between effort and patience, is the real answer. Not fire alone, not tools alone, but rhythm. Well, Neanderthals survived because their lives had rhythm, day and night. Movement and stillness, sharing and conserving, over and over. As the day continues, small tasks fill the time. Nothing dramatic, nothing heroic, just maintenance, repair, observation. They adjust furs, check bindings, touch stone tools to feel their edges. Everything is done slowly, carefully, because mistakes cost energy. The child watches, learns, absorbs. This is how knowledge travels forward, not through teaching, through presence. Hours pass again. The sky does not brighten much. Winter keeps its hold, but the day is lived anyway. Eventually, without ceremony, they turn back. The shelter calls, not emotionally, practically. Inside, the air greets them again, familiar, reliable. The night will return, it always does. And when it does, they will repeat what worked. They will lie close. They will share warmth. They will wait. Winter after winter, night after night, small groups, quiet shelters, endurance built from ordinary moments. If you step back far enough, this pattern repeats across the land, across generations, across time. 400,000 winters are not endured all at once. They are endured one night at a time. And now, you don't need to follow anymore. The pattern is clear. The rhythm is known. Your body understands this rhythm too. Breath, rest, stillness. You can let go now. The story has enough momentum to carry itself. Winter continues somewhere, but here, you are warm, you are safe, and nothing more is required of you. I'll continue, without breaking the tone or rhythm, and I'll keep it open-ended and flowing, the way a real sleep narration works. What follows is another deep, extended continuation. Slow, circular, and gentle, meant to fade into rest, not to be counted or tracked. The day moves on without ceremony. Light never becomes bright. It only shifts. The sky remains heavy, like a low ceiling that never quite lifts. Snow reflects what little brightness there is, spreading it thin across the land. Everything feels muted. The group moves again, quietly, not because they must rush, because movement now costs less than stillness. Cold loosens its grip just enough to allow it. Footsteps press into snow. The sound is soft. Snow absorbs noise easily. It forgives weight, then slowly forgets it. They follow familiar ground, not a straight line, a gentle curve, a path chosen long ago and reused because it works. Paths are not invented every day, they are remembered. The child lags for a moment, not from tiredness, from curiosity. A patch of snow catches their attention, an animal track, small, recent. They crouch, touch it. Cold bites their fingers, they pull back instinctively. Learning happens like this, quickly, without explanation. An adult waits, not impatient, not urging. Waiting costs nothing, rushing costs warmth. They move on. The land opens slightly here, a wide stretch, exposed. Wind moves faster. They cross it steadily. No running, no stopping. just enough speed to keep heat moving through muscle. This is another quiet rule. Too fast and sweat forms. Too slow and cold settles in. The right pace is learned over time, and once learned, it rarely changes. Clouds drift slowly. They do not break. They do not threaten. They simply exist. The day does not feel long or short. It simply unfolds. At some point, no one marks when they eat again. Small portions, dense food, fat that melts slowly on the tongue, protein that sits heavy and sustaining, no excess, no hunger afterward. Balance. The child eats last, not because of rank, because they eat slowly, because they get distracted, because they are watched. Someone adjusts a fur wrap, tightens a tie, checks a knot. These actions repeat daily. They are not chores. They are maintenance. Tools are handled briefly. A stone edge tested against a thumb, a binding checked. Everything must be right before it is needed. Fixing things in crisis wastes strength. Time drifts again. Cold remains consistent, not punishing, not generous, just there. As the sun begins its slow decline, never high enough to feel like midday, the group turns back. Again. Not debated, not discussed. The day has reached its useful end. The shelter appears ahead, dark rock against pale ground, familiar, reliable. It does not welcome them, it simply exists. That is enough. Inside, the air holds the memory of their bodies, not warmth exactly, but familiarity, smell, stillness. They settle in again, this time more quickly. The body remembers where to go, where to lie, how to arrange itself. The child curls inward, already sleepy. The day has been enough. Outside, the wind returns, a little stronger now, testing edges. The shelter answers with stone and packed snow. The first stars try to appear, briefly. Then clouds close again. Night claims the sky. The fire does not return tonight. Or if it does, it is weak. Brief, not depended on. It flickers, then goes dark. No one panics. No one reacts strongly. They have already adjusted. Warmth comes from closeness again, from shared space, from bodies that know how to hold heat. The older man exhales, a long breath. The day has tired him more than the cold, but rest waits. Pain visits, then leaves. He does not argue with it. The older woman closes her eyes, awareness still near the surface, listening, counting breaths without numbers, feeling movement. Everything is in place. Night thickens, sound thins, the shelter returns to its quiet center. If you listen carefully, you might notice the way breathing changes together. Not synchronized, but compatible, like waves that don't collide. Time loosens, thought loosens, edges blur. The cold remains outside the furs, pressing, waiting, but not winning. Neanderthals do not defeat the night. They outlast it. This difference matters. Dreams return. Not stories, sensations. Movement remembered. Warmth repeated. The child murmurs softly, a half sound, An adult shifts closer, still asleep. Care does not wake. Snow begins to fall again, light at first, then steady, layering the world quietly. Snow insulates, snow protects, snow hides, snow becomes part of the shelter's defense. Inside, temperature steadies again. The body recognizes the pattern. Let's go further. If you are still listening, that's fine. If you are drifting, that's fine too. Nothing here demands attention. The night continues, but not loudly, not urgently. Winter after winter passes like this, not as one long ordeal, but as thousands of ordinary nights done well enough. Eventually, far in the future, the land will change. Ice will retreat, forests will grow, different humans will walk these paths. They will not recognize the shelter, but they will recognize the instinct. Tonight, you are resting in that same instinct, the one that knows how to slow, how to be still, how to wait without fear. You don't need to hold on to this story. It has already served its purpose. The night will pass. Whether you watch it or not, you are warm, you are safe, and you can let go now. I'll continue, without resetting, without tightening, without asking anything of the listener. What follows is another long, slow extension, meant to exist quietly, whether it's heard clearly, half heard, or not noticed at all. The night remains. It does not feel endless now. It feels familiar. Snow has finished falling for the moment. The air is still. Cold rests in place instead of pressing forward. Inside the shelter, the shapes of bodies are barely distinguishable. Fur blends into shadow. Shadow blends into stone. Only breathing gives away the presence of life. Slow, even, inert. The ground beneath them has learned their weight, pressed flat over many nights, compacted by patience rather than force. This place knows how to hold people. If someone were to wake fully now, the world might feel unreal, edges too soft, sounds too few. But the body would know it is safe. Safety is felt before it is understood. Neanderthals did not seek comfort the way we imagine it. They sought enough. Enough warmth, enough food, enough rest. Enough is powerful. Enough is sustainable. The older woman's breathing changes slightly, a longer pause between breaths. Her body sinks deeper into rest. Awareness loosens. Watchfulness fades. The night has proven itself predictable again. Outside, the snow reflects nothing. The sky offers no stars. The world is enclosed, contained. Wind moves somewhere far away, but not here. Here, there is only stillness. This stillness is not empty. It is full of small, ongoing processes. Heat slowly moving from one body to another. Breath softening air. Muscles releasing tension. Life maintaining itself quietly. Time passes without being noticed, not even by the body now. This is the deepest part of rest, the place where thought dissolves. Neanderthals reached this place often. They had to. Without it, their bodies would fail. Without deep rest, no amount of strength matters. The child's chest rises and falls, a tiny rhythm within a larger one, protected, centered. This is not luck. It is arrangement. Careful placement of bodies, careful sharing of warmth, careful avoidance of waste. If you step back far enough, this looks almost like still water. No ripples, no disturbance, just presence. Cold still exists beyond the furs, but it no longer matters. It has been negotiated with successfully. This is the quiet victory that leaves no evidence, no tools, no marks, only continuation. The night reaches another plateau, not moving toward morning yet, just existing. This is where the mind, if awake, often wanders, but the body stays anchored. Thoughts, if they appear, are thin, fragmented, not stories, just impressions, darkness, warmth, stillness. The shelter remains unchanged. Stone does not move. Snow holds. Everything waits. If you notice your own breathing now, you might find it has slowed. Not because you were told to slow it, because calm is contagious. The body recognizes safe rhythm. It matches it automatically. The night goes on, but it no longer feels like something to get through. It simply is. Somewhere, very far away, ice shifts again. A sound too distant to matter. The shelter does not respond. It has learned which signals require action. This is not one of them. The older man's hand relaxes. Fingers uncurl. Pain has receded into the background. Rest has done its quiet work. If there are dreams now, they are shallow and fleeting, not vivid, not demanding, just gentle echoes of movement and warmth. This is how bodies repair themselves, not through effort, through permission. Neanderthals did not separate work from rest. They understood rest as work, the work that makes tomorrow possible. The night begins very subtly to change. Not light yet, not warmth, just the sense that the deepest point has passed. The body knows this. The mind does not need to. Breathing shifts again. A little fuller, a little more present. Sleep remains deep, but no longer bottomless. The shelter feels slightly larger, not physically, in awareness. Space returns gradually. No one wakes fully yet. There is no advantage. The day will still be there. Outside, the snow remains undisturbed. The world looks untouched, as if nothing has happened. But survival has happened. Quietly, successfully. This is the truth hidden beneath the story. Survival is not always visible. Most of the time, it looks like nothing. Neanderthals survived winter by making nothing work. Stillness, waiting, repeating what worked. Eventually, movement will return, but this story does not need to follow it. We can stay here, in this suspended place. If you are still listening, that's fine. If you are gone, that's fine too. This continuation does not require witnesses. The night holds, the shelter holds, the body rests. You are warm. You are still. You do not need to do anything. If this story helped you slow down, breathe easier, or drift closer to sleep, please gently like the video and subscribe. It helps this channel reach others who need calm, quiet history at night. You're always welcome back here. Rest well and good night.